The Texas Longhorns have officially dropped the mic on their time in the Big 12 Conference. I'm sure it was sweet yesterday with the SEC chants in Jerry World. 49-21 was the final over Oklahoma State. We're going to unpack it right now, but first things first, Longhorn fans, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Talking college football every single day. Your Longhorns, I feel pretty confident about their postseason aspirations, so make sure you're dialed in here. We're going to talk a lot about it. Don't miss a thing. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Pakel. A great way for us to just kind of interact and involve y'all in the show as much as possible. So, like I was saying, yesterday for Texas, the mission was clear. Their best was required in this spot, and that was exactly what you got from them. Defensively, Ollie Gordon. We said it all week long, like Ollie Gordon this, Ollie Gordon that. If Oklahoma State wants to stick around, hey, he could be the piece for them that keeps them in this game. All they did was hold him to 2.6 yards a carry. Big T'Vondre Sweat. I know we caught a touchdown pass. We'll talk about that here in a second. But what they did on the defensive line, holding him to 34 yards rushing, that just totally took away the element of surprise, if you will. Because if they got that run game going, then you had to worry about, well, does your safety play have to trigger a little bit quickly? Do your linebackers have to play a little bit more aggressively in the box and that RPO game opens up? There was none of that. I guess we'll never know is what we'll have to say to that whole conversation around Oklahoma State's offense and what Texas's defense did yesterday. Left zero doubt. Now, offensively, Quinn Ewers, man, was the epitome of dialed in. There was so much made about what Texas was when he wasn't on the field. And then when he got back, he looked like he was in full rhythm. Like how you would want your quarterback to look with your postseason aspirations on the line. 35-46, 452, 4 touchdowns. Like, yeah, that'll do. I think that'll be just fine. So the overall sentiment for me was mic drop on the Big 12. And then when it comes to what Texas is, they left zero doubt. Like, the committee's going to do what the committee wants to do, but for me, when I'm looking at Texas, I truly believe they're a top 4 team in the country. And for Texas, if you needed any style points, and I think they maybe did before last week after beating Texas Tech by 50, maybe needed a little bit of style points. If they did need any of those, they got them emphatically. Also, keep in mind the way the SEC championship went yesterday with Alabama beating Georgia. I know it was week 2, but like, that win continues to look better if you're Texas beating Alabama at their place by double digits. I'm just saying. So what's next? Well, again, I fully believe this Longhorn team is a top 4 team in the country. By the time you're watching this, the playoff rankings may already be out. I expect Texas to be in that group. If they're not in that top 4, I think the committee got it wrong, just plain and simple. But when you look at what they could be in the postseason, Steve Sarkisian post-game, he's like, listen, I'm gonna just say it. Like, I'd put us up against anybody, is essentially what he was getting at when he took the podium yesterday. And I don't think he's just saying that to, sort of prop his team up for the committee as they get ready to make their top 4 decision. Like, I think he genuinely believes that. And I genuinely believe that. Because when you look at what you would need to win in the postseason, Texas checks all the boxes. You got a head coach that has been there before. As a coordinator, sure, but he's still been there before. As the OC for Alabama. Spoiler, they won a national title. So he's no stranger to that kind of stage and that kind of spot. You got a quarterback who is playing his best football of his career right now. He's settled into a really nice rhythm. And to be honest, too, the thing with Quinn Ewers, he looks so much more poised than we've ever seen him throughout his career at Texas. Like, he doesn't look like a guy that is still trying to get comfortable in that offense. He looks like he's driving that car with, supreme ownership when you watch him and the way he dialed it up yesterday. They're elite at the line of scrimmage. You can't say enough good things about them being able to not only hold teams to less than 3 yards a carry on the season, but then on the offensive side of the ball, run for right around 5 yards a carry. If they get in a game against a Michigan or against, let's see what happens to Alabama again. We already saw what happened there, but like, they would hold up their end of the deal just fine on the line of scrimmage, which I believe is the price of admission to succeed in the college football playoff. And in the SEC, Texas will have that. And this was the thing we said going into the game now. You can't just take one guy away when you play Texas. Like, you can't just say, hey, Xavier Worthy, he gets all our attention. We're going to make sure we take away number 1. You can do that. But Adonai Mitchell's going to go for 3 bills against you, or triple digits rather, go for over 100 yards against you. And then Jordan Whittington's going to get loose. Jatavian Sanders is going to get loose. We said it going into the game. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole with Texas when you try to defend them and what they have at that wide receiver position. You had 10 different individuals catch a pass from Quinn Ewers yesterday. 4 different individuals catch a touchdown pass. That was whack-a-mole, and that was Texas making the most of their skill positions. And so what I'm trying to say here is when they get in the playoff scenario, if they get in the playoff scenario, which again I expect them to, I think that's going to be a very complex thing for teams to play against, because with the number of weapons they have, with what they have on the line of scrimmage on both sides, there is no style of game that I don't think Texas can play. If you get in a rock fight, T'Vondre Sweat, what they have up front, they're going to be okay in that kind of setup. If you get into a shootout, they're fine in that setup too by nature of what we just said at quarterback, what they have at the skill position on the perimeter, like with Steve Sarkisian dialing it up. I don't think they'll ever be in a spot where they're just out-coached. I think they can play whatever style, and also it's not hypothetical because we've seen it now multiple times from this Texas team. They've been tested throughout the course of the season, and I think by nature of those tests, they've gotten more resilient. I think they've gotten stronger as a whole. I say it a lot about Alabama and how much better I think they are from that game week 2. I think to me, Alabama is still a top 4 team in the country. We'll see if the committee sees it that way. But you should also make sure we mention that Texas, I think, has gotten better since that game too. And it hasn't always showed up on the field. And I think, honestly, we've seen the real dividends these last couple weeks with Quinn Ewers getting back into the lineup. It's a dangerous group now. So we'll see what happens here with Texas, but for me, I think they dropped the mic on the Big 12 heading into the SEC. Had to feel good with those SEC chants with Brett Yormark jumping up on the podium. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it was sweet. But Texas, for me, should be a top 4 team. I'd be surprised if they're not a top 4 team, and I cannot wait to see what happens here going forward in the postseason for the Longhorns. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Got a lot of ball to talk about here. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Pickell. Hey, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.